Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about the bitter, harsh truth. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, "Hi Frederick, what is what's the bitter, honest truth you can tell someone trying to learn how to code in their early 20s with a poor science background?" Well, uh, software development is extremely difficult. It takes years to get good at it. Oftentimes, people try to sidetrack you by getting you to bet on things that are irrelevant. So it's a little bit of a jungle to maneuver. And when you try to get your first job, luck and prejudices of like what the companies are looking for and so forth has a big part in whether or not you get into the industry. And in some cases you never get into the industry because you simply don't fit the mold of what a professional grade software developer looks to in the early stages of your career, which forces you to either abandon this whole thing or tell yourself that you're equal to everybody when you start doing freelancing and WordPress design and stuff like that, which sort of further perpetuates the situation for a lot of people where like they get comfortable doing what I call low-end software development, and when they get older and older, they realize that they can't actually get into the industry because they never actually never actually learned what is necessary to work at as a professional software developer. So they sort of stay. It's almost like you try to become a professional athlete, but you simply don't get into like the right training programs or so forth and so forth. So you sort of like just jog a little bit, and then you keep on even when you're like older and you sort of want and need to slow things down or get into like these more stable, bigger jobs. You actually can't because you never built up the early day skills to do that. So software development is, I suppose that's the bitterest truth that I can give you. So if you don't, the reality is that everybody can learn how to code. That is true. But the question isn't if you can learn how to code or not. The question is, are you able to learn it to the degree that is necessary to perform at the level that is expected of most software companies, so within like mainstream IT. And nobody really knows. Guys, I have worked with software developers. Okay, I went to school with, what were we? 60-ish, like in my class. By the time our education was done, we lost half the class in the first semester. And only by the end of it, I think 1/5 or 1/4 or something like that of anybody graduated. Of those people, several got different sort of jobs. Only a handful of us got like employment at like the prestigious companies, or like the companies where like the a lot of people wanted to work, and many got jobs. But some people, like even after the full education, couldn't get a job. Like I have actually been contacted by old classmates who like went back and did like other stuff. Like they had to re-educate themselves all over again because they wanted to do something else. And the simple fact is that I always knew, or rather like when working with them, I realized that like this person simply is not capable of thinking in the way that is necessary to make this happen. And that sort of, you know, it's the same sort of bitter truth. Someone imagine this. Imagine being, since you're like a kid, you're way into hockey or football or something like that, right? And you want to do only that, and you play and you play and you play, and or you ride, you drive go-karts or something like that, and one day you dream of becoming a Formula One driver or something like that, and you practice and practice and practice, but you simply get to that point at some point. And I have friends that I know that have been playing different sports, like at the level where they could actually compete in like serious competitions, but they simply don't have it. They cannot break through. Like they are good, but they're not so good that they can actually go in and compete at a higher professional level. And for some, like for most of them, almost all of them, that was soul crushing, and so they choose a different path in life. And that is something that can happen to you as well. It's something that for sure can happen. There are no guarantees with anything you do. Anything that you could possibly think of might be the case that, hey, this might be too difficult for you. But I also want to say that this is what the dangerous part with not trying is that you won't know. And trying is an important part of it. That's why one of the reasons why I believe that education has to be free, or like it has to be sensible, like not in. There are some countries that are like, yeah, I mean, shit, I cannot imagine. Like I've seen some of the footage from like some of the colleges in America, in North America, and I was like, is this even a school? Like it looks like a theme park. And I was like, yeah, all that money that you put into that thing, maybe you could lower the tuition. I don't know, because like the problem with when you can't afford to make a mistake, that might in some cases be a good thing, but it's also a really bad thing. It can be an extremely hard thing when you have like loans and things like that. In my part of the world, or especially, I mean, I am in Sweden, as you might know, and in Scandinavia, that risk is fairly low. If you want to change your life or like get a different sort of education, you can, and you don't have to. I mean, sure, you're not going to be able to usually make the same sort of money studying and working, or like so forth and so forth. But at the very least, you're not going to go. You're not going to have to put yourself in debt for the rest of your life. Because if you can't dare to try, you will never know. And I can tell you from personal experience that is something that happened to me when I was in my 20s. I actually even earlier than that. I wanted to be a programmer. I thought it was pretty cool with computers because I was at that perfect like teenage when when the internet became a thing and like personal computers became a thing. I was in that perfect spot when, we went from antenna, like these old Ericsson and Samsungs and so forth, these old phones, to smartphones. Like I was actually there when when this sort of started happening, and I thought this was really cool. Sort of like, as you can imagine, the old like a few of the older generations were there when like the car became a more household item, and it was really cool to play around with cars in your garage and stuff like that. I did the same thing with computers, but I really did think that I wasn't smart enough. And so I postponed starting learning about programming for many years until I was in my mid-ish 20s when I started doing it for real and decided that, you know what, I'm not going to try I don't want to play it so safe that I never take any chances in my life. Let's try this. And it turns out that I was actually smart enough. I had to put a lot of effort into it. It wasn't easy. I had to work like hell because programming didn't come naturally to me. It took so much effort to get good at it. And I still claim that I would probably not be a software developer if it wasn't for Curious Kiwi. She was as far as I know, she was a mom of two from Australia who took a course with me. She was one of the people, and she helped explain. She was really good. Like she really understood she learned how to do the thing, and then she posted like suggestions and tips on how to think about the different problems. I used her materials that she was posting like crazy. It really helped me when I was in a really tough spot. And then after a while I started understanding, and now I try to do the same thing back. So I urge you that there are pitfalls and there are things that could go wrong with this thing, but try. You don't have to sign up for college, but try and see how it goes. Just, I promise you, you're probably, even if it doesn't go as well as you would like, you're probably going to be happier that you did something than not. It's sort of like the love thing, right? It's better to love and lost than to have never loved at all. I completely agree with that statement. So what I want you to take away from this is that the bitter honest truth is that if you might not be good enough or smart enough, or like call it what you want, you might not have the necessary aptitude or way of thinking that is necessary to become a professional software developer. Everybody can take a boot camp and sort of learn a few basics, but some people simply don't have that part of them, just as some people are genetically equipped to compete in the Olympics. And even if you train your entire life, you might not get to that same sort of level. You can get very far with hard work, but there are certain, in some cases, some distances cannot be bridged by just hard work alone. But we have to remember that talent is usually, as I like to, my old martial arts teacher used to say, the difference between talent and hard work. Like talent might be 1% of the whole thing, or like genetics might be a very small percentage of the total, and everything else is hard work. And so for a professional athlete or someone who wants to train to compete, you can't just skip all the hard work, because it's only when you did all the hard work where those genetical differences actually start making the difference, if that makes sense. For us software developers, it's sort of the same thing. You can probably, most people will be able to swing becoming a professional software developer, but there are no guarantees. I just urge you, try, because you probably will learn quite a lot from just the journey of trying. And worst case scenario, guys, there's always other things that you could be doing, and let that sort of unveil organically by just doing your best. Have a great day.